If you have to restart, will you become a data analyst or will you become a data scientist? And how would you do that if that's the case?
I would answer for how I would do that, but then like what would I become? My interest is always in data
We,
science.
we want a non-diplomatic answer for this. Hey everyone, I'm Hari. In this video, we are going to answer the biggest question ever in the data community. Whether you have to choose like data scientist or data analyst. This question has been lying around for so long. Even 1 year back, if you would ask me, I would have given mixed answer for this. So I'm a data scientist and we have a data analyst here. I hope this video will help you to decide which one is right for you based on 7 factors. Let's start with an intro. For those who are new here, I'm Hari. I did my master's in data science at Columbia University, and I'm currently working as a data scientist at Take2. And here we have a special guest for the first time in our channel. Welcome, Sai. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Harit. So, and to start with, I did my master's in business analytics and project management with data science as my major from University of Connecticut. And then during my master's, I worked as a data scientist at Lego. And then after my master's, I started working as a lead data analyst at Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina. So it's been like 7 months, and then I'm loving my job so far. So good.
So you have worked as a data analyst and also a data scientist before. So I think this is the right video to do with you. And so, yeah, as I mentioned, we're going to answer which one is right for you based on 7 factors. Number one, job role and day to day tasks. Number two, skill requirements and the learning curve that is involved in each role. Number three, the educational background and the entry level requirements for these roles. Number four, what kind of projects or industries or what kind of real applications are there for data science versus data analyst? And number five, career growth and long term prospects. Number six, the work life balance and job satisfaction. And number seven, the important thing, the salary range for a data scientist versus a data analyst. So let's start with the first factor, the job role and the day-to-day tasks. So now we are working as a lead data analyst, right? Like how does it look? Like you go to the office, you open your laptop, and what do you do every single day?
So the first thing I would do is check my emails for any data request or like for any updates that the company or like my team requires or any stakeholders require, and then reviewing the previous dashboards that have built or any reports that have built just to check the errors or like if there's any new data requirement or any new update required. And then we do have a quick meeting like once in 2 days, like on alternative days with my team. And then if at all required, we involve the other teams also to discuss the priorities and distribute tasks. And if you have any roadblocks, we discuss them and then like see if we can get help from other departments or if we can help each other. So that's how my morning starts. And then like for the first 2 hours, I'll be doing all these things like checking emails, having quick calls with my managers or team members, and checking my dashboard, the previous ones that I have built. Then once those are done, I'll be doing my actual work, which will be like mostly data gathering or like data cleaning it, like, and then data like making reports out of all these things. Let's say if I spend 100 minutes a day on something, out of that 70 to 80% would be data gathering and then data cleaning. The rest 20% would be building the actual report. So it involves lot of data analysis, like cleaning the data, filtering the data, and then the real world data is a lot messier than the actual projects we do, the academia projects. So once that is done, like mostly my day involves cleaning and gathering and analysis. And then at the end, I do have some more meetings with the stakeholders to understand if there's any requirement from their side or like to present the findings or insights that we have found during the day. And then if they need any new report or dashboards, this doesn't happen often, but then once in a week or like once in 2 weeks, we do get a new request or like we get new data, and then we need to clean the data if the data format is different. So that's how my day looks like on it, like,
So,
in general.
so okay, yeah, I get it. So do you use Python at your work or is it just any data visualization tool like Tableau, Power BI? How is it? Because I've seen few data analysts who it is a thing, right? Like you don't even need to code to be a data analyst, but it's not the case for everyone. So what's in your case?
So the thing is true, you don't need to typical, like I would say, you don't need to do coding to become a data analyst, but then you need to do some basic level of coding, like say SQL. You need to write some queries to pull the data or clean the data. Like for that, you need to have basic coding knowledge. It's like simple English, but then it gets complicated as the data is huge or like as the requests are like too complexity. And then even in Tableau, I use usually Power BI to build my dashboards or reports. And then even in that Power BI, we do some basic coding like DAX functions to and calculations or measures. I do require like basic coding knowledge, but not like coding like computer science students, but then just
Mhm.
to uh, understand the data in a better way and then to extract hidden insights. But high level
Okay.
coding is not required, and then I don't use Python for the to answer the question.
Okay. So most of your work lies around with SQL, working on SQL and Power BI.
Yeah.
Also, I have also heard that if you are a data analyst, you have to like prepare a lot of PPTs after you have had your findings, and you have to document the work and show it to everyone. Is that the case with you?
Coming to my work, I don't make a lot of PPTs, but then I do have to present my work to the stakeholders or like to other departments or sales departments or marketing department. So it depends on the team. But then coming to my team, like I do have to present, but then not very frequently. And the documentation part, it's always helpful to document. It's not for someone else, but it's for you. Like say a few months later, if someone asks you to explain the report that you have done or like the cleaning methods that you have used, you will be blank. So it's always
Mhm.
better to document your work, and documentation is very important coming to real world because you'll be dealing with hundreds of tables and thousands of columns. It's difficult to remember for to which column, like what filter you have applied or what transformation you have done. So it's always good to document for yourself. And let's say if something were to happen, if there's a new hire, you don't have to explain them everything from the start. You just give them a document, and then if they have any doubt, they reach out to you, and then it's easy for you and it's easy for new joinees or like someone who's into who have changed departments or like new to the company.
Mhm. Okay. Okay, I get it. So, yeah, that's really great to know, like, how your day-to-day tasks look like and what kind of tech stack that you use at work. I hope people who want to become a data analyst can, like, this would really help them to choose, like, whether the data analyst is the right role for them.
Yeah.
So, for a data scientist, like, I work as a data scientist at Take-Two. So, my day-to-day tasks, like, looks like this. And not so different from yours, but kind of different. So I start my work with hazelnut coffee, and as soon as I go to office, that's what I do. And after that, I might not have to check emails every single day because it's not like we have everyday requests to build new machine learning models. Because building in at least in my work, it's mostly like building machine learning is just like an internal task. So my work revolves around building a machine learning model, but we are not going to share it with the stakeholders. They are not going to ask build new one for this. It's mostly like if you're building and if you're producing results for the stakeholders, they might ask, maybe this is not, your forecasting is not doing a good job here. So that's why I might not have a lot of email requests to look at every single day. So basically, my work, it might not be like an everyday task. It's like a sequence of tasks. So mostly my work revolves around building some machine learning models for forecasting because I work for sales forecasting, sales and analytics team. So I work mostly in sales forecasting. So my work revolves around building machine learning models, and more than building machine learning models, most of the time is spent on feature engineering, and
Yeah.
not sometimes not even data cleaning. Like I've heard that 80% of your time of a data scientist is spent on data cleaning. In my case, it's not completely true, but yeah, like maybe like 20% or 30% of my time is spent on data cleaning, and after that, it's a data preparation that plays an important role. So if you ask me, in my past, like I've been working here for like 1.5 years now. So how many new models have you built till now? If you ask me, like I would say I might have built like 2 to 5 new models. That's it. Most probably we're gonna use the same model class that we have built for something else, and we're just gonna copy the model that we have already used. But most of the time it's involved in data preparation, which is feature engineering. Because obviously a model is not going to be perfect. You have to improve the model every single day. And the first improvement that you have to think about is increase the features or include the relevant features for that model. So that's how my work, the process looks like. And it doesn't stop there, right? Even for a personal project, we just build models on a notebook and we will be done after that. So after building models, that comes the difficult part that we have to move it to production. So we have to create a pipeline for that, take care of the pipeline, deploy it in a production environment, make sure that you generate the outputs and you share it with the stakeholders. And this is how it looks. So if you ask me, like if you to consolidate the differences between a data analyst versus a data scientist over here, I would say a data analyst involves mostly like presenting your results directly to the stakeholders every day, coming up with insights so that other people can understand what you have understood from the data. It's not just that you saw the data, you did your analysis, and you understood what's happening, and you have to convey your understanding to the stakeholders. This is a role of a data analyst. And for a data scientist, most probably your work is like you take the data, you understand the data to build machine learning models, and you show the outputs of the machine learning models to the stakeholders. Most probably you don't have to explain what is happening with the data. So I think this is the major difference between a data analyst and the data scientist. And then I think we can go to the second factor. The second one is skill requirements and learning curve. So you said you've been working at your company for 7 months, and so you would have started in the first month, and before joining the company, I'm pretty sure I would have already known SQL and Power BI. But how does the learning curve looks like after you join, and do you get to learn every single day, or it's not the case, or it cannot be a traditional learning? It can be like if you have learned something about the business, or if you have learned something else which is not even required for that role. I would still like to know what is that.
Yeah, so the learning curve is pretty good here. Like, it's my first ever corporate job. So, I knew SQL and Power BI before I joined, but I knew SQL and Tableau before I joined. So, since I
Mhm.
knew Tableau, Power BI is easy to learn. So, like, that's what I told in the interview. So, that skills are always transferable. Remember that, Tableau and Power BI. So, starting at the like during my first month of my work, like I mostly used Excel to clean the data and then make the reports. Then eventually we shifted all the data to SQL database, and then we do have another database which is from IBM Cognos, and then we clean the data in SQL and Excel, like make reports in Power BI. And then these are the skills that I use. And I also do use another tool called Power Automate, which automates a lot of things at my work, like updating the reports, or like it's like building a pipeline, which is called flow in Power Automate. So we use that to automate a task, build flows, and then save time, like tons of time using that. And then the learning curve. It's very good, and then like I get to learn business because I deal with sales team and marketing team, so I understand
Mhm.
the business very well, rather than dealing with patient data or like customers data. I deal with business data. So yeah, that's what learning curve and the skills that I use at my work.
Okay. So when you started your data analyst job, there will be a few prerequisites right, for the roles, right? Like you should know Excel, you should know SQL, you should know Power BI or Tableau to get started. But uh, is there any requirement to climb the ladder in the data analyst field? Like what did you do after joining the company, and what are the things that you have learned or the skills that you have improved after joining the company? And also, what did you bring in when before joining the company? Like, what are the skills that you had, and what are the skills that you have improved after joining the company?
So before I joined, I knew SQL and Tableau, Excel. Like Excel, they don't mention in job descriptions, but then you have to learn it. Like it's
Mm-hmm,
understood that you know it. So
mm-hmm,
these were the skills I knew when it comes to data analysis. But then after joining the work, I learned Power BI, and then this new tool called Power Automate, and then I had to learn another tool called IBM Cognos. So I had to upskill myself because mm, we need to know what the company or the team is using to store the data and then pull the data. So we need to learn. You might have to learn new skill, or like if you are lucky enough, you can work on the skills that you have already know. So but you should be open to learning new skills always. And then that's one thing that I have learned. And then before joining the company, you might be like writing like 10 lines of SQL code or 20 lines of SQL code, but then once you join the company, you might have to write hundreds of lines. So it's like joining multiple tables, or like using Windows functions just to increase readability, or like using CTs to increase readability, or like there'll be a lot of requests coming, and there'll be you'll be having a lot of databases and a lot of tables and a lot of columns. So you'll be doing advanced work than your academic work. So you should be open to learning. And then yeah, that's what the skills are. And then to climb the ladder, if you want to stand out, like try learning Python or a cloud tool like
mm-hmm,
AWS or Azure or GCP. If you
mm-hmm,
learn one, the skills are transferable. Again, you don't have to learn the other two. Like you always say in the
mm-hmm,
interview that like the skills are transferable. So it's
mm-hmm,
the same case like Tableau or Power BI. So having these cloud technology or Python knowledge should give them an edge and let them stand. Like it will help them stand out in the crowd.
mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Even in my case, like before joining the company, like when I used to do some personal projects, I think you all would have done that. So I know Python. So I've done few machine learning projects. I've done some visualization tasks like EDA, feature engineering, all these things. And I expected that's gonna be the case when I go to my first job. And I thought that's what my life would look like. But after even I've made a separate video on this. So after going to the job, I realized that it's not just that I have to learn Git. So I in the first 3 months of my internship, so I learned Git and I've learned how to code on VS Code because I usually do that on Jupyter Notebook, and I had to code on VS Code, which was integrating at first, and that was my first 3 months. And after moving on, like after 6 months or something, I still have to upskill myself to know how to put your model in production, how to deploy it in AWS. Maybe I don't have to do it end to end because you will have a machine learning engineer to do it, but still, I still have to know what is happening there so that I can optimize the code based on that. So these are the things I've learned till now, working as a data scientist. But moving forward, I think we might have to learn AI
Yeah.
and this LLM ops and stuff. And even I've seen that the word AI is mentioned in a lot of data science job descriptions nowadays. So
Even in data analytics jobs, I see it.
yeah, I think the market is pushing us to learn that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, let's go to the third factor. The third one is the educational background and entry requirements. So let me keep it simple. The most controversial question. So is master's degree required to become a data analyst or data scientist?
So I would like to answer it in two ways. Like
Mhm.
say, if you're coming from another country, you might have to do a master's or bachelor's in order to have a valid visa. And then, like, if it's an immigrant watching the video, for them, you need a bachelor's degree or master's degree because you're coming from another country. So you might need visa, so that you need it. So you should need a degree in order to get into a corporate world. So that's one way of thinking it. So if at all you're from the same country and then you're applying for roles in the same country, the degree might not be important. Like say a bachelor's degree should do it, or a degree like a normal BCom or something should do it. And there are companies do accept people for entry level roles which do not for the students who don't have any background or degree, if they have like say some certifications online and then they have done some good work and then they have built a good portfolio. There are some companies or startups who are happy to hire them like for entry level positions. So I would say unless you're an immigrant, you don't need a degree. Like if you're an immigrant, you might need a degree to enter the any other country and then in order to get a valid visa, or if you're coming on a work visa, that's well and good. So that's how I would break this question into.
Yeah, even I agree with you. Like when I did my internship, even here in US, my manager has told me later. So I was fighting with. I had master's degree. I was doing my master's degree, and I was fighting with a few guys who were in their undergrad. So they were in the final round. Even I was in the final round. So they didn't really care like whether you have a master's degree or
Exactly.
not. But let's say you are from India and you already have a bachelor's degree and you have never learned data analytics or data science skills before. If that's the case, maybe doing a master's would help because it's not because you're going to get the degree certificate. It's because you're going to get 2 years of life where you can experiment stuff. And instead of just sitting at home and experimenting, now you're going to get a degree for that as well. So,
Exactly.
yeah, so that's what I believe here. And absolutely no job requires or makes it mandatory to have a master's degree.
As long as you have
So
skills and good portfolio, you are in a good position, unless you're from another country.
yeah. So under the same section, I have one more question. So let's say whether it can be masters or bachelors, do you still need a computer science degree or something like statistics or computer science or some relevant degree to become a data analyst or data scientist?
I
If
have a
you have
straight
one.
answer for this. I'm from electrical background, so you have the answer already. So you don't need a computer science degree to break into data science or data analytics, as long as you have a good portfolio, and then you can convince that like I had learned these skills, I have worked on these projects, and here is my work. And then if you can show that confidently, you're in a good position. Then like lot of people trust me.
But at the same time, you did your master's in data science, right? Like that's still a relevant degree, right? What if, do you think if you didn't do a master's and if you are still in India and if you want to get a data analyst job in India, with your bachelor's degree, do you think it is a feasible thing or it's not
Yeah,
possible?
it is feasible. My friends, like my bachelor's friends who are in electrical, they work as a data scientist, like top companies like Microsoft or Google right now. So they come from
Oh, that's
electrical background. They did an internship or like they have done projects. They've built their portfolio, and then we just have to showcase it because like for entry level candidates, they don't expect us to have a lot of knowledge. So as long as you have like basic skills to enter the company or the team, and if you're open to learn, it should be good.
okay. Yeah, I agree with you. I know a lot of people who didn't have bachelor's in computer science. Even I did my bachelor's in mechanical
Mechanic.
engineering, and before coming here to masters, I got a job as a data analyst. So it is completely possible, depending on a condition that you have your resume tailored for that particular role. So
Exactly.
which means you should have projects, you should have the right skills for that.
Exactly.
So which comes to my point four. So, what kind of projects or industries or real world applications are there which requires data analytics or data science
I
skills?
think most of the industries they do use data analysis skills and data science projects because like only if you understand your company's data you can improve your revenue or reduce your investment or costs. Like say if you take sports sector, they use data analysis to track the players performance metrics. Like which education sector they use the to track the students performance. And if you're taking the famous Power BI project, which is the HR analytics project, that HRs use it to track the employee performances or like satisfaction and retention rates. And then when it comes to sales, like it's obvious sales needs data for sales and marketing industries, and same goes with healthcare, like finance or tech industries. I think most of the, like I would say 90% of the industries, they're using data to increase their revenue and reduce their cost, and like with cutting edge technologies. So there are like almost every industry uses data to make decisions right now.
Yeah, that's true. Like to name like few top sectors, you have mentioned a few. To name you few top sectors which use data science or data analytics is mostly finance, I guess. So the top one would be finance, and the second one,
Healthcare.
I think it's marketing or sales. I mean, obviously tech. I mean, excluding tech,
Mhm.
the next
Yeah,
comes the finance and marketing and sales. I think now currently like healthcare sector has been using the field like data science and data analytics a lot. You work for a healthcare sector, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So maybe you can give few examples. Can you give few examples of how you use data analytics for healthcare sector?
So I would put it high level because of the security reasons. But like
Mhm.
I use data in terms of comparing claims and premiums, like how much are we earning in terms of premiums, and then how much are we spending in terms of claims comparisons, like state wise or like say agent wise or like hospital wise law. So I would put it high level.
Mhm. Okay. So even I work for sales and marketing team. So here most of my work is mostly how to increase the sales. What would be the sales for the future and how can you make it better? What kind of marketing decisions that you have to take? All based on data, right? Let's say Black Friday sale is coming on in 2024, and I can use a machine learning model to tell them this might be the sale for during Black Friday, and if you can increase the promotion from 50% to 75%, I think we can have more sales. So that's
Exactly.
how marketing sector use it. And even initially, I wanted to go for finance sector, and the finance sector use it. It is very obvious. You can see a lot of finance projects on YouTube as well, and so mostly they use it for financial modeling and also to perform like projections and forecasting,
Shares
etc.
and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, then let's go to the next one. I think we kind of spoke about this already, but yeah, point number five: career growth and long-term prospects. Let's say you are a lead data analyst, right? I want to know how the corporate ladder looks like. It starts with let's say we will start with an intern. Let's say you have to start with a data analyst intern, and what happens after that?
So if you are starting with a data analyst intern, like, or else if you don't have internship, you might have to start as a junior data analyst, I would say, and then
Mm-hmm.
you might move to like data analyst after like a few years of work, like say 1 or 2 years of work, and then like after working for a few years or as a data analyst, you can get into senior data analyst or like a lead data analyst. And then like once you get the seniority and then like understand the company and then business, you can get into head of analytics or like analytics, you can become a manager. So this is a
Mm-hmm.
typical path for data analysts. But what I've seen the trend so far is few people after being in the industry as a data analyst, they get into data science transition. So that's what happens, or like cross-functional
Few people
roles.
might also go for a data engineering side.
Exactly. So, or like executive pathway or cross-functional roles, like getting into business intelligence or like working with data management or like a director of analytics when it comes to executive positions after being in the same company for like half a decade or more than that. People that might get into product roles, sometimes product manager or program manager after being in data for a few years. I've seen those transitions too.
Yeah, I agree. Like a lot of people who wants to go to the data science field, and if they think it's too late, I've seen a lot of people like becoming a data analyst, senior data analyst, and becoming a manager in a data analyst field. And after that, they'll become a director for both the data analytics and data science team. So technically, they are in both the fields, right? So even
Exactly.
that's a part to take if you like both data analytics and data scientists. But yeah, if you just want to become a data scientist, I think it starts with it's kind of the same. Like you start with an internship and maybe a junior data scientist after that, and then data scientist, senior data scientist, and you become a manager of data science and a senior manager of data science, and then the director of data science for that particular department. And moving forward, it will be like a vice president and president of
Residents,
analytics or the particular team.
AVPs, and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And what do you think about the transition part? Since you mentioned that, like, let's say you start as a data analyst, because a lot of people wants to do that. So you start as a data analyst, and let's say you want to become a data scientist or a data engineer. Is it easy to make the transition, or no, not at all?
I wouldn't say it's easy, but then it's not difficult. So
Mm-hmm.
when you're in data analysis, you get to see a lot of data, and then you know how to clean the data, you know how to gather the data. The thing you have to learn is how to build models, and then like say, like you mentioned, how to deploy it, or like how to work in Visual Studio or GitHub, or like say you might have to deal with big data like PySpark, or you might have to use Hadoop or like Databricks. So if you have that knowledge, or like cloud tool is very important, like AWS, Azure, or GCP. If you have a combination of all these skills, and then if you're working on these when you're working as a data analyst, the transition should be easy and smooth, or else it might be difficult without this. I mean, like, you wouldn't get hired if you don't have the knowledge on this, but then if you're building on your portfolio by learning these skills, it should be smooth.
Okay. And like which comes like I have one more question. I want a non-diplomatic answer for this. So let's say I have the data analytics skills already to become a data analyst. Like I know SQL, I know Tableau, Power BI, etc., and little bit Python. But I'm not very confident in machine learning. Let's say if that's the case, should I become a data analyst today and learn all those skills later and become a data scientist like in 2 3 years, or should I wait and learn for 6 more months and try to become a data scientist? Personally, what I think is you should go for the data analyst role and learn along with the role, because in that case, you're going to gain experience and also you're going to gain the new skills. And eventually, you can become a data scientist if that's the path you want to choose. At the same time, I've seen people like who wanted to become a data scientist, but they start as a data analyst. Later, they realize that they are really good at data analytics and they want to stick with the data analytics path. They don't want to go to a data
Data
science
science.
role or data engineering role. So either way, it's a win-win, right? You just go for a data analyst role if you're ready for a data analyst role, and just do whatever you want after like figuring out what's actually happening in the industry. But what do you think about this? Let's say,
I would
what advice will you give for a
The
person
first
who?
advice would be not to wait for 6 months, because you haven't uh, worked with real data yet. Assuming that you're someone who's entering into data field, you haven't worked with real data yet. So I wouldn't waste 6 months on learning machine learning or deep learning and then working, and then I wouldn't try to get into data science field. I would start as a data analyst so that I can see real world data, and then he or she can understand how messy the data is in the real world. So that gives them a different perspective of data. The actual projects you do from YouTube or Udemy or be it any online platform, the data might be messy, but then they have ways, like you have fixed ways, like feature engineering or this column or this column. You have stepwise procedures that then they have instructors to teach or tell you what to do and what not to do. Whereas in real world, you're on your own unless you have a mentor or instructor or who has already worked. It's always trial and error method when it comes to data science, or like data, at least coming to data science, it's always trial and error, like for feature engineering. So it's always good to get into corporate world, see the data, understand, so they'll know what to do and what not to do, so they can choose the projects in a way that can build their portfolio. So in the same 6 months, your portfolio will be far better than before if you were choosing the other path of not taking the data analyst job and then working on your projects. So I would recommend them to start as data analyst, understand the data, and then build your portfolio parallelly. And then say if they are like data analysts, they can move in the same path. If they still want to do data science, since now that they have seen data, now that they can find good projects or like make your own project or something, and then get into data science.
Yeah.
And then like, you
So
get 6 months
so
of experience or 1 year of experience add on.
yeah. So to consolidate like that, like basically like getting into the industry is more important than deciding what to become, whether a data analyst or a data scientist.
Exactly.
So yeah. So point number 6. So I think a lot of people don't cover this, but let's say I still want to know about this. How does work-life balance and job satisfaction looks like for a data analyst and for a data scientist role?
So coming to work-life balance, my work-life balance is pretty good. I only work for 8 hours a day and then like 5 days a week, so it's pretty good. And then depending on like say if at all if there's an urgent requirement, sometimes I might have to work for like 1 or 2 or more, 1 to 2 hours extra like once a week, but not every week. I have to work for more than 8 hours for like few days in the past 7 months. So my work-life balance is pretty good as long as you're submitting everything on time. If at all like if it's taking time for you to submit or like clean the data or like pull the data or make reports, you might have to overwork to compensate that. But assuming that you're completing your work on time and like delivering all the deliverables, the work life balance is pretty good for any data analysts. And then there might be exceptions, say like a company or like a team might not be good or your manager, like I don't want to get into that. So but coming to my team and my work life balance, it's pretty good. And then like it's perfect.
Yeah,
And then
that's true,
coming
right?
to
Like if the company's culture and company's work-life balance is not good, it's gonna be the case for both the data science team and data analytics team.
exactly.
But let's say the company's culture is good, and now you're working for that company, and you have a data analytics role and you have a data scientist role, and just focusing on the work-life balance path and the culture, like how much tension or the things that you have to undergo while working on the particular role. What do you think? Which role would have less tension or less work-life balance, or
So
vice versa? Yeah.
that's a nice question. I would say data analyst might have good work-life balance or like so like say data gathering mostly is done by data analyst. So if the database is huge, you might have to spend more time on like gathering data. So if they report, like say sometimes you are pulling huge amount of data, so it might take a lot of time to gather the data. So in that case, the analyst might have to work extra hours to get the data. So once he gets the data, the data scientist is working on building the model. That might take a lot of time. In that case, the data scientist might have to work for more time. So I would say it depends on data gathering or building a model. Like if he's building multiple models or like the output of the model is not as expected, he might have to work more. Like coming to data analyst, if the data request, if he's not pulling the data correctly, he might have to work more.
Yeah, that's true. But personally, I think work-life balance wise, a data scientist role is much better than data analyst. Because like why I'm saying that is because for a data analyst, you have a stakeholder requirement happening every time. But I feel
Exactly.
data scientist is more of an R&D department.
Mhm.
So you have to work on your own and you have to produce results after a point of time, but not immediately. So because of
Or
that, you can set your
frequently,
own
yeah.
deadlines. Yeah, deadlines are not like not most probably not set by someone else, but data analysis is not the case, right? You have to present your results because you're gonna give the output to a stakeholder. It's most probably like every single day. So I
Yeah,
think in
that's
that
true.
way, in that way, I prefer data science over data analyst. Yeah,
Got it. Yeah,
and
that's like valid point. Yeah, we
yeah.
might have to submit our work like twice a week or thrice a week. So in that case, like the data scientist has more flexibility.
Mhm. So here comes the seventh question. The salary for a data scientist and a data analyst. I think the answer is very simple. We don't have to be diplomatic here at all. But I still want to. A data scientist salary is much higher than a data analyst's salary, but it varies based on the company, right? Let's say a data scientist in a mid-sized company, his salary will be less than a data scientist who's working in data analyst who's working in Google or Meta or some big company. But for in the same company or a similar company, and if the role is for a similar level of role, if let's say entry level data scientist and entry level data analyst role, obviously the data scientist pay is much higher. But so I'm not going to ask the question which is higher. But my question is, If a data scientist role is higher and a data analyst role, I mean, it's not a big difference. It might be a slight difference, and maybe give me a second. Let me Google like what is the salary. So even like according to Glassdoor, an average data scientist salary in India is 8 lakh rupees to 23 lakh rupees per year. And an average data analyst salary in India is somewhere between 5 lakh rupees to 10 lakh rupees per year. Obviously, there is an overlap here. So, which means it depends on the company and it's not a huge difference at all.
Seniority, the project
Yeah,
you work
it's,
on, the budget they have.
yeah. So, it's not a huge difference at all. But my actual question here is we know that there is a slight gap between a data analyst salary and data scientist salary. Is it worth to go for a data analyst salary if I prefer the skills or if I like the role more than a data science role? And what do you like? Is it worth to sacrifice few bucks to go there, or we should always try to upskill and become a data scientist? What do you think?
No, like it shouldn't be the case as long as you're liking your work, and then if you're satisfied, and then if you have a good work life balance, and then the job satisfaction is amazing, and then the work you do is interesting to you, you don't have to transition to data science. You can always climb the ladder in being in the data analysis, like say become data analyst from junior, and then senior data analyst, and then become a lead or head of data analytics, and then you can climb into like AVP or VP or like director of analytics. So you can always be in the analytics path. You don't have to transition unless you want to transition. So a data analyst salary might be higher than data scientist if you're like say in a better company or like in a better role or managing multiple projects. So it all depends on your interest and then like your skill and then how well you can communicate.
Hmm. Yeah, that's true. I agree with that. Even I have a similar answer. Like, let's say if that's the case, if the data scientist salary is higher, it's better to be a better data analyst than just being a stupid data scientist, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, so even let's say as we talked about, like a data analyst salary in a bigger company is obviously bigger than a data scientist salary in a mid-sized company. So instead of trying to shift to data scientist, if you think money is the only goal here, I think it become a better data analyst and become go for a bigger company or get a promotion and be in a better role. And
Exactly. Who's a
yeah,
data analyst at Google might have more salary than a senior data scientist at a like mid-sized company. So you never know.
yeah. So yeah, so let's. I think we have discussed all these 7 factors. Let's come to a conclusion, and at the end of the video, I'm going to ask Sai what he would choose if he has to start over again. So before that, let's just give an overview or a conclusion of what we have discussed. So to give like a consolidated answer for data scientist versus data analyst, data scientist is someone like for each factor. There are a lot of overlapping skills between a data scientist and a data analyst, but it seems like technical skills wise, data science scientists should know like machine learning, Python, which is not required for a data analyst role. But at the same time, a data analyst should have a skill of storytelling and providing the results to the stakeholders, which is not a mandatory thing for a data scientist. So obviously there are like few overlaps and there are like some exclusive skills that you have to have for these two roles. And apart from that, we have also discussed like the education is not really important, like relevant for these two roles. You can become a data analyst or data scientist either way. And we have also discussed about the career growth, and it looks like both of these roles are very interchangeable, and you can become any of these things after a point of time. So it's not really a big deal. And also we have also discussed about to get started in a field and like which field to choose to get started, and it doesn't really matter. Uh, Getting started as soon as possible is the most important thing rather than thinking which is better. And also pay wise, yeah, obviously like scientists are paid more than data analysts. But at the same time, if you like data analysts more than data scientists, because if you are more of a people person and if you like to showcase your results, if you like to present yourself, a data analyst is not more of a tech, no, data analyst is not more of a tech nerd, but a data scientist is mostly, his work is like spent on coding and building machine learning models. There'll be very less people involved there. So if you are more of a people person, you can go for a data analyst role. And if you don't like that, if you're an introvert like me who just like to sit in a place and code, you can go for a data scientist role. And so the interesting question that we're going to ask Sai now. So you have worked as a data science intern before. You did your master's in data science, and also you are working as a lead data analyst now. Let's say you erase everything. you never worked in data field, you go back to your electrical engineering bachelor's and you're gonna start everything again. So what would you do? Like, will you become a data analyst or will you become a data scientist from start, or what would you like do, like step by step, like in a short form maybe?
So to start with, I didn't know data something like data field existed until my bachelor's final year. Like I had a elective called SQL. Like I'm using call because I didn't know what SQL was until my bachelor's final year. So SQL and machine learning electives, I had taken them. So that's when I got introduced to field of data. So that's when I thought I'll choose data science as my major in masters. Until then, I wanted to do my masters in electrical. So when I'm very good at math, so that's when I took those electives. My field of interest changed, so I wanted to give it a try. That's where it all started. So if I had to restart everything, like, and also if I had to restart, do you want me to tell in a way that should I come to United States? Should I put that, or like
No,
how
you
do
don't
you?
have to. Just the confusion is going to be like, if you have to restart, will you become a data analyst or will you become a data scientist? And how would you do that if that's the case?
I would answer for how I would do that, but then like what would I become? My interest is always in data
We
science.
we want a non-diplomatic answer for this.
Even now I want to become a data scientist, so I
Yeah,
had to
like
start
if that's
everything.
the case, like what is making you think that you want to become a data scientist but not a data analyst?
I'm very good at math, so like okay, I'll use that point to answer. So if I had to restart everything, so I'm pretty good at math, so I would always choose data scientist path because that's where my expertise lies. And then coming to my portfolio, I would start working on like basic skills that are required, like SQL and Power BI, just to understand the data. And then to get into data science, I would learn like Visual Studio or like machine learning and deep learning, and one of the cloud tools for sure to get started. And then, as a, for an entry level data scientist, I think these are the most required skills. And then having a good portfolio in terms of machine learning or deep learning. I'm guessing deep learning is also not required. Having a good projects on machine learning and then able to do use amazing techniques for feature engineering or clean the data, that should do it. And then having a cloud knowledge on one of the three tools should do it. So I would restart as a data scientist because my expertise lies there in the field of mathematics.
Mhm. Yeah, thanks for answering it in a non-diplomatic way. So if you ask me like what I would become if I had to start over again, so initially like even like 2 years back, I didn't want to become a data scientist. I wanted to become a data analyst because like I like to like prepare PPT, present stuff, and I like to basically I like to storytell. I thought that like I feel that storytelling is not a critical aspect in data science at all. It's more of a data analytics
Right.
aspect. So I always wanted to become a data analyst. But if I had to start over again, I would become a data scientist because I like to code more than like the storytelling part. I like to because I'm an introvert. Even though I like the storytelling part, I don't like to get on a meeting and just like explain what I've understood from the data every single time. As a data scientist, disclaimer: as a data scientist, you still have to do that, but that's not your work every single day. But that's not the case for a data analyst.
Yeah.
So, so if I had to start over again, I would still become a data scientist or data analyst, not because of the pay, not because of anything else, but just because I prefer coding more than the storytelling part. But I still like storytelling though.
Yeah. And just to add that, I still use a lot of math at my work. So that's why I still love my job. Like, say, I prepare a lot of measures or calculative measures. Like, there are a lot of features that I add using my math skills and then building flows or like scheduling everything. It involves a lot of math. So I'm using my expertise. So, like, I'm fine with this job too. As long as I'm using my expertise, I'm fine with the data analyst or data scientist job.
Oh, that's really great. And thank you, Sai, for answering like all the questions that I had and the community had, like the difference between the data scientist and the data analyst role. I hope that this video would have helped our community to understand or like help them choose which is right for them. And if you are just getting started in the data science field, and if you haven't gotten your first data science job, make sure to check out this video where I have talked about the tips that I wish I've known before starting my first data science job. And see you in the next video. Thank you.
And